On today's episode of Victory Formation, we talk college football national championship odds and which teams have the best opportunity to deny Georgia their three-peat. Let's roll. What's up, sports fans? My name is Chris. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Victory Formation. We are a daily football betting show that covers both college football and the NFL. In today's video, I mentioned off the top, we're going to be talking about national championship odds. We're going to be breaking down some key teams and giving you some dark horse teams that could shock the world this season. Now, before we get into all that fun stuff, I want to hear from you guys down in the comments section. If you had a $100 free bet to place on any of these three teams to win the national championship, LSU at plus 1,600, Texas at plus 2,200, and Tennessee at plus 2,500. Which team are you banking on this year? Now, let me start by emphasizing this first statement. It's early. It's July the 7th. We have 7 weeks until week 0 of the college football season kicks off. And all we have to go off right now is spring training hype, roster battles taking place between certain individual key spots for certain teams. And we have the transfer portal market that's kind of done and dusted that we know, where players are playing this year. It's early. All we can do is take everything we know with a grain of salt. We can look at the schedules and we can speculate all we want, but we're still going to have some fun with this opportunity. Now, as we look at the odds boards, you will see the Georgia Bulldogs as favorites to repeat for the third consecutive season at plus 240 odds, with Alabama right behind them at plus 550. A pair of Big Ten teams check in to round out the top four, with Ohio State sitting at plus 650 and Michigan sitting at plus 1,000 to win the national championship. Teams like USC, Clemson, Florida State, LSU, they all check in below 20-1. Everyone's favorite team to hate on, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they check in at plus 2,800. And last year's runner-up, TCU, is all the way down at plus 6,600. So where should we start? Well, let's start with the two-time defending national championship Georgia Bulldogs. They have to replace a ton of key talent this season with the likes of Stetson Bennett, Keely Ringo, Chris Smith, and Jalen Carter all off to the NFL. But the benefit of being a powerhouse program is that it's not simply a rebuild, it's a retool, and they should be right there at the end when all said and done. At quarterback, the Bulldogs are choosing between Carson Beck and Brock Vandergraff for the starting role under center, and whoever wins that battle will have plenty of weapons around them. They bring back Brock Bowers, which is arguably the best tight end in the country, one of the best players in the country at that. And they land receivers Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett from certain teams that led their respective teams in receiving last year. If we look at their schedule, the Bulldogs should have a smooth sailing until the October 28th clash with Florida, and then they play Tennessee on the second last week of the season. If the quarterback play can hold up, the defense should take another step forward and do their thing. There's plenty of talent on the offensive side of the ball to put up a ton of points, and they'll be the team to beat this season. If the quarterback struggles this year, the SEC could be wide open, and Georgia could be looking at the outside of the playoffs looking in. Speaking of SEC title games, Alabama will be looking to get back to the title game after having their 2-year reign snapped by LSU, but they'll have to do so without the likes of Will Anderson and Bryce Young, two key guys from last season, who will be playing on Sundays this year. If we look at Alabama's offense, it's a three-way battle at quarterback for the starting job between Tyler Buchner, Jalen Milroe, and Ty Simpson. Milroe brings the most experience to the team, having played 6 quarters last season, but Tyler Buchner has the inside track with this connection to Tommy Rees back to their Notre Dame days. Whoever wins the competition will have to improve the offense in a hurry, as they finished last year outside of the top 10 in total offense for the first time in 5 seasons. Defensively, the Crimson Tide will have plenty of question marks on the defensive side of things. They have to find somebody to replace Will Anderson's production. And the secondary leaves plenty of question marks more than answers. So it'll be a down year and a struggling year for the Alabama defense if everything doesn't pan out the way they hope it will. As for their schedule, they do get Texas, LSU, and Tennessee at home, but trips to Auburn and Texas A&M always prove tricky. With so much uncertainty at quarterback and a weakened defensive unit that figures to be one of the worst in the last 10 years in Tuscaloosa, I'm not exactly running to the windows to bet Alabama to win the national championship this year. You've also got to take into account that there are 3 SEC teams that are all 25-1 or under to win this year's national championship. So I'm not going to be betting on Alabama this season to get back into the college football playoffs, let alone winning the national championship. And now we shift focus to the Big Ten, where we have Ohio State and Michigan. And just so you know, one of these teams is going to be in the college football playoff this year. It's only a matter of which team it's going to be. Ohio State returns one of the best receiving rooms in the nation, led by Marvin Harrison Jr., but they will have to replace C.J. Stroud under center. Both Kyle McCord and Devin Brown are fighting for the starting quarterback position, but this team will go as far as the offensive line takes them, which was absolutely atrocious last season. If either quarterback is not afforded time in the pocket to make plays downfield, not even the best receiving group in the nation can make the Buckeyes go far. Additionally, even with a great running back tandem with Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams, who have combined for 1,300 yards last season and 21 touchdowns, the offensive line is still going to have to do their part to keep the defenses at bay. If we look at their schedule, it's not all roses and sunshine in Columbus. They have to go to Indiana, Notre Dame, and Purdue, which are all tricky spots to play in. But they do get Penn State at home, but they finish the season at the Big House against Michigan in the game. If they're not careful and if they have any sort of slip up early on in the season, you can kiss those college football playoff aspirations goodbye. Speaking of the Big House, the Michigan Wolverines have every reason to be optimistic this season. They have a returning offense that has plenty of production. Their defense should be great again this season. And their toughest test comes late in the season at Penn State before hosting Ohio State in what should be a CFP deciding game. The roster features returning players like J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, and Donovan Edwards, and a defense that gave up 16.1 points per game last year returns 6 starters, which figures to be a replication of last year's success this season. If I'm running to the window to back one Big Ten team, it's definitely going to be the Michigan Wolverines. I like them, the fact that they're at home in the finale against Ohio State, and I just believe they are better overall from top to bottom. Now we turn our attention to two sexy but not so sleeper picks in the USC Trojans and Florida State Seminoles. The Trojans enter this season at plus 1,400 to win the national championship, and with good reason. They have the returning Heisman winner in Caleb Williams, and he's projected to be the first overall pick in next year's NFL draft. The team did lose some talent around him on the offensive side of things, but they definitely reloaded in a big way. Another factor of being a powerhouse team, you're not rebuilding, you're just simply retooling. The offense should continue to put up video game-like numbers with the additions of Marshawn Lloyd, Dorian Singer, Zachariah Brand, and Raleek Brown in the offensive weapon cabinet. But will the defense hold up their end of the bargain and just simply be better than they were last season? This defense was atrocious. It gave up the 8th worst yards per play in the entire nation and ranked 94th in scoring defense. If the Trojans are serious about contending for a national championship, this defense needs to be at least top 50 in order to compete, unless they're going to score 64 or 70 points per game, which is something that's not realistic. I'm going to bank on Lincoln Riley to get this defense right, and I'm expecting the Trojans to be a major player for the college football playoffs and the national championships once everything's said and done. As for the Seminoles, they also have every reason to be optimistic this season. They return one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Jordan Travis, and they have plenty of returning talent around them. The defense returns 8 starters from a team that was solid last season with no potent offenses in the ACC. I expect that defense to lead them to the promised land here this year. We know the offense is going to get their points all season long. They ranked 16th last year in scoring and 10th in total offense. But the one key concern for the Florida State Seminoles this year is their schedule. They open up with a tricky game, a neutral site game against LSU to open up the season, and then have to play Clemson and Florida on the road. It's daunting, but it's definitely doable if everything comes together for the Seminoles the way they hope for, and I'm expecting them to make some noise this season in the ACC Conference. If one ACC team is getting into the college football playoffs, I'm running to the ones to back the Florida State Seminoles at this great price. If we look at teams 20-1 or worse on the odds boards, the only team that jumps out to me is the Washington Huskies. Look, this is a team that gets Michael Penix Jr. back under center for a team that ranked 2nd overall in total offense last season, and Michael Penix ranked 2nd overall in terms of quarterback production. He was simply outstanding for the Huskies, and I'm expecting great things out of him again this season. The only issue is defensively, where they lost a bunch of key starters, and they just simply don't have the depth needed to compete in the Pac-10. They should be fine, but overall in the college football playoff landscape, I don't think they're the best team, and I don't think they'll get to the finals if they even get into the college football playoff alone. So just to recap, the teams that I'm backing this season to win the national championship are the Michigan Wolverines at 10-1 and the Florida State Seminoles at plus 1,800. I believe both teams are set up well for success within their own conference, and once they get to the college football playoffs, I do believe they have what it takes to get to the finals and win it outright based off of their great defenses. That wraps up this episode of Victory Formation. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to help support the videos, please smash the like button, share this with your friends on social media, and if you guys are new around here, please subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any great football content moving forward. And also let me know down in the comment section who you guys are backing this year to win the national championship and what odds you bet them at this year. Until next time.